Welcome to Breakaway. Today's guest is a Paralympian who just medaled in the Tokyo Games after barely missing out on the podium in the Rio Games 5 years prior. He's a public speaker, a record holder in the long jump, and just plain inspirational. He joins us to share about his time prepping for and competing in this year's Games. He'll share his story of what led him to losing his leg and how he uses that to inspire the next generation of athletes. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Breakaway. We have a bronze medalist from this year's Paralympic Tokyo Games, Trenten Merrill. Welcome to the show. Producer Brian, always good seeing you. Trenten, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm happy to be back in Arizona.
But can you talk to us a little bit about the preparation? Because it must have been wild having that extra year because of the pandemic and everything that was going on. Tell us about your preparation and how it compared to previous Olympics.
The preparation for this year was a lot different. I know for me, I felt like it was a blessing in disguise because I felt really good in 2020 and I felt really strong and powerful, but then I got injured and I was like laying on my back for like 2 months. Yeah, I couldn't move at all. And then I found out I had a herniated disc in my L5-S1 and I was having like crazy sciatica. So for me, I was like, man, this is, God's looking out for me and I gotta get on a rehab program like ASAP and I just gotta work my tail off and be ready to go. So it was a lot different like preparation this year than years prior because I hadn't had to go through that serious of an injury.
And then at the same time, I'm sure you're going through a lot of mental preparation too, because you're so used to like every 4 years, this is what I'm going to be doing. But now you have a pandemic that hits and then you have an injury and everything. So it's like, how are you able to stay so strong and stay in good shape and get ready to compete and actually win a medal?
That's a great question. So for this year, because of the delay, I felt for me, this was just more time to work. So I like that. I wanted to make sure that I put myself in a good position to get on the podium, and I was just super hungry. So my goal was stay hungry and stay healthy.
Well, and Trenten, speaking of, back in 2016 in Rio, correct me if I'm wrong, you took fourth, performed really, really well, but barely missed the podium, to where then flash forward 5 years and you make the podium. Like, what was that? What was that like?
It was a really cool feeling to make the podium this year. I know that was a huge goal for myself, my team, and it was something that I told myself in 2016. I felt great in 2016 because I had performed really well. I broke the American record, and going for the next Paralympic Games, I set out for a goal to make the podium. So it was awesome to see my flag raised.
We always want to know about it, what happened in the Paralympics and the Olympics. Can you tell us a little bit more about the protocols leading to getting to the Games? Because I'm sure it's even nuts getting on the flight, and then once you get there, what did you have to do, and was it a lot more than you expected?
You know, I don't think I really had expectations because I knew that it was going to be pretty chaotic, and I knew that it was going to be a lot of things that were just out of my control. So as an athlete, one of the things I learned over the years was just focus on what you can control and like just stay in that zone. So going into Tokyo, before we even got there, we had to test like 3 days prior, the day of our flight. And then once we got into Japan, we had to test again before we could even leave the airport. And then once in the village, we received all these like test tube like kits. And then we had to test every day while we were there.
Wow. But walk us through when you medaled, because that must have just been, because also too, you, leading up to medaling, you fell once, right? I saw a funny video from some of your buddies watching on Instagram, and were they sitting in the Olympic Village or something? Yeah. And they're just like, oh no, that's not what we're looking for. But like, how did that fall? Like, how were you able to stay like mentally prepared and then eventually make it to what your goal was, medal at the Paralympic Games in Tokyo?
Yeah, so leading up to getting the bronze, I was out there and I was trying to figure things out. I felt like I wasn't quite hitting my stride. And then that second jump, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, I'm really not hitting it. I was like, okay, everyone just saw that. I was like, at least we got it on camera. I was like, okay, wipe the dirt off and get in your zone. And when I sat back down, I just kept telling myself, one jump at a time, one jump, just focus on one jump. And I knew that I was capable of getting on the podium. I knew that it was in me. And I just kept telling myself that over and over because I didn't want to think about results. I didn't want to see where I was stacked up. I just wanted to focus on executing And so then finally I put one out there that got me in the bronze position and stayed there.
And then you got this bad boy. You actually brought the medal. Can you show that to us?
Yeah,
open up that box.
Yeah. I've never seen an Olympic medal.
I've never seen an Olympic medal either.
Check it out, dude.
Incredible. And I've never held one, and now I am.
Yeah, it's pretty
incredible.
heavy.
It actually is very heavy. Checking that out. So describe the emotion when that gets put around your neck.
Yeah, that was new for me because it was a Paralympic medal. So it was a different emotion for me. This was something that's priceless, something I couldn't buy. So I felt like this was is such an honor to represent USA. And like I said, when one of the coolest feelings for me was once I got this medal, then to turn around and even though it wasn't my national anthem, I would love to hear that. I still got to see my country's flag raised. And so I was proud in that moment and knowing that, I put USA up on that podium. So for me, this medal reminds me of all the hard work, the 5 years leading up to it, and the people that were in my corner and helped me achieve this.
And then real quick, while we wrap this up, you've been dreaming of this moment ever since you heard about the Paralympics. So is this lived up to the hype and everything that you've thought of and prepared for?
So for me, my hype, there's still more.
Yeah.
So I'm still hungry. The bronze
you want
is great.
You want the gold.
Yeah, of course, man. The bronze is great, and it was a fun competition, but I know I'm capable of more. And so I want to go out there and I want to keep fighting. So it's been amazing. And looking back now, looking back at when I was in the hospital when I first lost my foot, it is for sure a dream come true, no doubt. So it's amazing, and super thankful for this one. Looking forward to more.
And I can't wait to dive into that when we go one-on-one next. We're going to tell the story about how Trent ended up losing his leg, how he heard about the Paralympic Games, and what he does to inspire the next generation. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Welcome back to Breakaway. I'm sitting down and going one-on-one with Trenten Merrill. He is a bronze medalist from this year's Paralympic Tokyo Games, bronze medalist in the long jump. But everyone wants to know what led to the Paralympic Games. When did you end up losing your leg, and how has that experience led to you becoming a bronze medalist representing the USA?
When I was 14 years old, I lost my foot. I was crossing the street with my best buddy, Scott, and we didn't see this car coming. The car didn't see us. And we were just crossing the street to go up to his neighborhood. And right when we crossed the intersection, or the center median where the bushes were, I just saw like a flash of a BMW. And boom, foot was crushed in between the dirt bike and the car. The doctors tried to save it for about a month and a half. Couldn't save it, had to amputate. That was my freshman year in high school. And then immediately got back into sports because that was my identity at the time. That's all I knew was competing. And then later on found out about Paralympics when I was about 19, 20 years old.
Because that's when you were in community college, right? You were going to Saddleback. You're like, what's the Paralympics?
Community college, go Gauchos. Yeah.
But when you found out the Paralympics and knowing that I have an opportunity to still be an athlete, I have an opportunity to show off my skills, whether I got one leg or I got two.
Yep.
So from there too, how did you realize that I actually have a shot here?
So when I first found out about Paralympics, I in my mind, I thought it was too good to be true. And then I got invited down to the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista. And right when I stepped foot on there, I remember hearing what God had told me in the hospital, that he had great plans for me. And I had thought that my dreams of becoming a professional athlete were taken away. And when I stepped foot on there at the Olympic Training Center, I felt like this was what God was telling me in the hospital, and that my dreams weren't taken away. They were just in a different arena. And so I immediately was just full of confidence. I'm fully capable of doing this. And I didn't know how good Paralympic athletes were. So I came in there pretty cocky and confident.
Yeah, you got humbled pretty quick.
Yeah, very quick. And it took me a lot longer than I would have wanted to make my first national team and then eventually Paralympic Games.
And then you were saying too, you were very, very into motocross growing up, and then that was actually a part of your accident. Are you still involved in motocross? Are you still dirt biking? Because that seems like something, you have an accident like that and you're like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this anymore.
I wish I was. So right after the accident, I got right back into racing motocross, and I continued with that for a few years. But when I got into track and field,
right after you got into it,
yeah,
man, you were hooked then. You loved motocross.
Yeah, it was addicting. I'm like an adrenaline junkie, and yeah, I got a need for speed. So that's why track and field kind of fit. And like when I long jump, it kind of reminds me of when I was racing, and you learn to hit bigger jumps. It's very similar to taking off on a blade, because sometimes you get this like, you hit this like kicker, or you get this almost like catapult, and you're like, oh, like you're in air longer than you normally, or you have been in the past. So there's a lot of cool relations I've felt, and with motocross, it's something I'm gonna visit back to a little bit later on in my career.
Yeah, but also too, how do you just spread this message to individuals that might be going through the same situation? They might have felt like their identities in sports, I just lost my foot, my leg, because I'm sure you're talking to plenty of different Paralympians that have some crazy stories. Oh, yeah. But it's so inspirational too, because we can watch incredible athletic feats during the Olympics, and then we watch the Paralympics and see how you make the most out of a tough situation.
Yeah, I would encourage anybody that's going through something tough where their identity is maybe being questioned to just remember that you were created for a purpose and a reason. And for me, what I have noticed through my own personal experiences is the dreams that I had as a kid and the desires in my heart were God-given. And so I believe that intuitively you have those like feelings and that calling and that almost like pull. Everyone does. And I feel like that's God kind of like tugging on your heart and showing you where like the specific talents and things or resources that he's put in your life for you to fulfill.
And then tell us about that feeling you had when you were talking about it last segment, how the American flag got raised and the national anthem is playing, and you must have felt unbelievably patriotic, proud to be an American. And obviously that's something that we feel like is under attack consistently now. It's like, should you really be proud to be American? Like, yes, you want people to feel that, and I think we feel that in the Olympic Games.
Absolutely. For me, like I was saying earlier, I was remembering all the people that were in my corner, and all of them were from the USA. And I love my country. I love my friends. I love my family. I'm happy to be living here. I wouldn't want to live in any other country, and I wouldn't want to be representing in any other country in any Paralympic Games. It was hard for me to make this team. It's one of the hardest teams to make. If not, I think the hardest team to make. We have the most competitive athletes and the most stacked athletes. So when I made the first US team, I was beyond thankful, and then to make the podium and see my flag raised was an incredible feeling. It's priceless, and it kind of reminds me of like 4th of July when I see all the fireworks and I hear all like national anthem, or I hear any of our songs that are about our country and what the people before us have done.
And then at the same time too, people watch the Paralympics and they see prosthetics. And for me, I don't really know too much about them. So are there different prosthetic legs that you can have? Like, what's the science and like regulation behind that kind of stuff? Because I'm sure you can't have like F1, they have just different technology, and sometimes you have a little bit of an advantage, but like, what's the difference in the science behind those prosthetics?
So with the prosthetics, one of the global rules is it has to be commercially available for every athlete to be able to use. So that way it evens out the playing field.
So kind of like when you're shopping for track cleats, you can just be shopping for prosthetic legs.
Yeah. So that's the number one rule. It has to be commercially available. The other one that comes to my mind is for bilateral amputees. Those are people that are missing both feet or both legs. Is their height regulation. Whereas I'm a unilateral amputee, it's just 1 foot. If I go too tall or if I go too short, I'm gonna end up getting like back pain or hamstring problems. Something's gonna happen. So that's where the other regulations kind of come in, and most of the feet are made out of carbon fiber right now. I know that a lot of companies are looking into different materials, but right now it's carbon fiber, commercially available, and then the companies are starting to make more specific, event-specific legs. So like I have a long jump specific leg and a sprinting specific leg.
Appreciate you breaking that down too, and like telling us all about your journey and what led you to the Paralympics. So coming up next, we got to talk about tough situations. We've gone through some tough situations going through the pandemic, and Trenten is going to share exactly like how you can get through those tough situations and how he uses his platform to inspire the next generation. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. Welcome back to Breakaway. We have to talk about making the most out of the time that you have, because I know you use your platform for good, and you want people to know that there's more to you than just being an athlete. There's more to you, anybody watching the show right now, than just being involved in sports. So you had a really, really great and inspirational Instagram post that said, what if you knew you would die at the end of this year? What would you do with that time? And I think that's something that a lot of us were thinking about during the pandemic. It's like, we're hearing about death all the time. And then you basically went through a near-death experience yourself. So I'm sure that's something that's going through your mind. And how do you use your platform to inspire?
So how I use my platform to inspire is telling my story, sharing the struggle, because most people, if they can't relate to your exact struggle, there's something they can usually pull away from it, because everyone goes through struggles in life. No matter who you are, you're going to face some type of roadblock or hurdle or setback or detour. So I felt that for me, everything that I had been learning and overcome, it was important just to share and be a positive light. And when I had written that post, I had wanted to share what I was feeling and what I was learning at that time, and I felt like it was important, kind of like Solomon says, is it's important to think about death almost more than life, because you start to realize your time is limited and you never know when you're going to go. And so for me, I was like, well, what if I had 1 year to live? What would I want to do?
Yeah.
One, I wanted to go to the Paralympic Games. I wanted to put my country on the podium. I wanted to influence and positively impact as many people as possible. And I saw a way to do that with social media, because in one day, I can't reach as many people as I can on social media.
Yeah.
So I see social media as a great platform to positively impact as many people as possible and be a positive light to help change the world.
Yeah, and that's what I love about an Instagram post like this. You're talking about, you had specific goals and you put that in that Instagram post, like grow closer to Jesus, positively impact as many people as possible, go to Tokyo, win a medal. You did that, and make wise financial decisions to leave behind for my family and friends. Yeah. So I think when people watch the Paralympic Games, like, I know I'm inspired.
Sure, I feel like every Paralympian is making an impact, whether they realize it or not. And sometimes it's hard to realize it when you're inside the frame, but for other people that are looking inside the picture, they can see so much more, and you can be so caught up in the frame that you don't realize how many other people are watching or viewing. So for anybody that did compete in the Paralympics, I say, shout out to you, because you made it, and whether you medal or not, you still had an amazing feat of making the games. Most people don't make the games, yeah. And then even more so, most people don't medal, and so just making the games is a huge accomplishment. And for those that medaled, like, congrats. And it's what I've learned being in the Paralympics and meeting all these other Paralympians is everyone's got a different story. Yeah. Everyone has a different struggle, and it's insane. Like, the one cool thing about being in the village was, if you don't have a disability, you're standing out.
That's great.
And that's what I love about sports too, especially the Olympics and the Paralympics. Sports transcends everything else that's going on. Language, political party, sexual orientation. You watch that, and those people are here to compete. This person next to you, or you're competing against, you have no idea how to speak their language. You have no idea where they align. But in general, you're out there to compete. And do you feel like a connection to all those athletes then too, knowing that, like, I might not understand your language or where you're from or what you're going through, but knowing that they're still inspiring people back home for them?
Yes, I do, John, for sure. There's a crazy connection, at least I experience with the other athletes, even my competitors, because we're all competing in the same event. We've all been training hard every year, and I know how I feel personally is I've trained harder than you. So they more than likely are thinking that if they don't, then, like, good luck. But in the village, one of the coolest things I experienced and really noticed in Rio was that this is a village with every nation around the world, Every country is in that village, and there wasn't war. It was like all the same common goal, and it was like united. But at the same time, we were separated by countries and like, what colors we wore and stuff. But at the same time, we're very much similar, and I thought that was one of the coolest things.
But I know you've been like just such an inspiration to me and so many people watching you in these games and watch you overcome so many struggles. It's been great to see. But coming up next, 40-second shot clock. This guy is gonna be on the hot seat. Questions he has not seen before. It's gonna be a good time. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway. This is the 40-second shot clock. Trenten Merrill is on the hot seat. You're ready to roll.
I am, dude. Let's go.
I got questions. Producer Brian's got questions. 40 seconds on the clock. Ready, set, go. Favorite Olympian of all time?
Usain Bolt.
Who's your role model?
Jesus.
Dream car.
Tesla.
Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Chris Evans.
Favorite TV show of all time?
Malcolm Middle.
Go-to cheat meal?
Oreos.
Morning or night person?
Morning when I want to learn. Night off season.
Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Biggest pet peeve?
Not cleaning dishes.
What U.S. city should host the Olympics next?
LA.
Ooh.
I think you got through all our questions. I don't
Nailed
think
them.
anyone has ever gotten through all our questions.
8 seconds left?
With
Let's
8
go.
seconds left.
Let's go.
From there. Favorite color?
Red.
Boom. Look, with the buzzer sounding.
Breakaway record. Trenten Merrill.
I don't think anyone's
go.
gotten through. That was great. Good work. Good work.
Yeah.
And that is all the time we have today. Trenten, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations again on winning that bronze medal and representing the USA. Producer Brian, always a good time. Join us next week for another authentic, unwoke sports conversation you won't hear anywhere else. Don't forget to like, comment, and share this episode so we can keep the conversation going all week long. I'm John Root, and this is Breakaway.